Hello, beautiful people. It is January 11th, um, almost a sunset, getting there, and it has been a beautiful educational time on the balcony. Not as many back-to-back Zooms as I was on yesterday, but a whole lot of reading. I'm filling out the survey. We have a survey says, as access conscious certified facilitators, there is a questionnaire that we fill out every year, kind of like an open book test, if you want to call it that. And it's brilliant. It goes through what we call the reference materials. So these, hey, you can jump on me if you'd like. It goes through everything that, okay, so the way it works, we have lots of manuals and access consciousness classes. Each class, basically, a different manual. And over the years, from, I don't know, like 2001, 2002, maybe a little before then, actually before then, where they've had manuals that whatever topics, whatever themes, whatever things, no longer read on more than 80% of the population, they get taken out and they get pulled into something that's called the reference materials. And so we have this huge body of manuals, thousands and thousands of pages of manuals. And I've been privy, I've chosen to explore them because I love reading, I love learning, I love exploring. And yes, these things were taken out so they don't read on more than 80% of the population, but they do read on quite a lot of people. And there is so much information that's in these manuals I have some manuals from 2002. And so it's really fascinating. Being able to go back. So there's a whole heap that are called the early years. You have to have gone through access classes to be able to purchase them. They're really awesome, really, really awesome. And then you have part 1 and part 2 of the current reference materials, the ones from, I think, around 2007, 2008, 9 maybe, is about when they began. And when I became a certified facilitator in 2013, I was given an open book test, which is actually what I was exploring now. I just got all my questions down into a doc so that I can go through and explore what are we being asked this go around, what I can learn, what I can explore, what I can receive from. And I absolutely adore the reference materials. Actually, my every Wednesday morning, hello, yes, Kitty is named Canella. She used to be our neighbor's cat, and then she adopted us. And I'm really glad because I think I've known her for multiple lifetimes. So every Wednesday, we get together. There's a group of volunteers. We've been reading together the reference materials, just kind of random topics, random things in the reference materials every single Wednesday. Hello. Since 2012, something like that. I've been involved on and off sporadically from about 2014, and now I host it. I provide the Zoom. We get together. I remind people about it, and we have volunteer serenaders, I call it. And we serenade one another with whatever is popping and whatever is really coming up in our world. And actually, as I was so busy avoiding what was going on in my head by delving into the reference materials and by reading and researching and all of that good stuff, I came across a section because I search and then I go next page, and read. And it was all about trifold sequencing systems. And I was like, wow, this is so interesting. So the topic that has been, for me, the most challenging, truly, really, really challenging personally, I use so many other tools. I use the mantra of access consciousness. All of life comes to me with EJG, ease, joy, and glory. I ask what else is possible and how does it get any better. I pock and pod. I destroy and uncreate. Look up the clearingstatement.com. Different places where I'm stuck, and I open myself and ask for possibilities. Yet the one thing that I've really, really been struggling with, and have looked at dynamically, and yet I'm still stuck there, is something called allowance. And what is allowance? For those of you who happen to be on YouTube or Facebook, I will click that. You can see. Allowance is being an interesting point of view. Okay, so maybe I can show you guys this. See? Allowance is having everything be an interesting point of view. Welcome to the back end of my StreamYard. There you go. Just because I don't have a way of showing you otherwise. So interesting point of view. In consciousness, everything is included, everything, and nothing is judged. That includes really crappy stuff and really phenomenal stuff. Everything is included without a point of view on it. October 7th for me, being Israeli, being Jewish, being the daughter of survivors of the Holocaust, is very, very fucking personal. And I'm not in allowance of what went on, and not in allowance yet of the world's response and the sheer volume of anti-Semitism and hatred that I have seen in the world since, even before Israel began retaliating for the, I would not want to wish it on anybody else, horrific massacre, brutality, rapes, just horrifying to me personally that one human being would desire to do this to another human being. And I'm not talking about, oh, we throw a grenade or we explode or there's a bomb or whatever. Look at footage of Berlin in 1945 and earlier as the Allies were bombing it. That city was plastered. Just nobody had cell phones. Nobody was trying to call anyone to say, hey, please move out of these areas where we're going to target them. There was nobody dropping leaflets. There was no, it is not only for CFs. Whoever is asking me that, because I just see Facebook users, reach out to me on Facebook Messenger. If you have already purchased parts 1 and 2, you do not need to be a certified facilitator of access. If you show me your receipt, send me a photo and show me your receipt of either the downloads folder that shows your name and it shows that you have the downloads of part 1 and 2, or and it must be parts 1 and 2. So you will need to have taken it would have been a level 2 and level 3, or a choice of possibilities, or a choice for possibilities, as it's called now, class. You can send me a photo of that and ask me, and I will send you the call-in information. We get together every single Wednesday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern time, 7 a.m. Pacific time. And we have actually for an entire year, believe it or not, we've got serenaders already signed up for every single Wednesday throughout 2024, because this is such a gift and a contribution for all of us. And no, it doesn't have to be the most recent version. It can be something from a couple of years ago. No big deal. Is the majority of the material is thousands of pages from before. We do not read I will clarify, we don't read the early years because most people haven't gotten their copy of that yet, so we're not able to read from those manuals. But just send me a message, let me know that you're interested, and I will gladly add you to that. Because to me, the more of us are aware of the possibilities around us, the more we can choose to be more in allowance. We can choose to not be tipped and turned and twisted and lied to, because we'd be willing to be such space. We'd be willing to use certain tools like asking truth before asking a question, to perceive what's really going on. Is someone yanking my chain, or is someone actually telling me what's going on? What is the underlying energy with this particular thing? I'd mentioned the trifold sequencing system. Is that many times we are, I don't know if you guys have ever been in a car accident. I have. I have on a couple of different occasions, being a passenger in a car accident and one time being the driver. And holy shit, for me, that crunch sound created this. Actually, I was even in a car accident that my dad was coming down the off ramp in the highway, and somebody smashed right into the back part. I was in the back seat with my legs up, so it was really, really fascinating to even perceive that. But what happens when you're in a traumatic experience? Now, it could be a car accident, could be a divorce, it could be you walk in and you see, somebody doing something like ex-husband cheating on you, or whatever situation kind of creates this like in your world. And definitely something that works in situations like wars, like if you've been assaulted, raped, if you've had a gun pulled on you. There are these moments where you're kind of sucked out, and you're in this loop, this perpetual loop, throughout all sorts of time, space, realities, whatever. You keep pulling into this over and over kind of loop, and you're not being present in your life. You're looping. I see this as well with my mother, who suffers from really far gone dementia at this point in time. And like I said, my parents survived the Holocaust. She survived Bergen-Belsen. And Ravensbrück is where they were beforehand. They were on a train to Auschwitz, but Auschwitz was too full. They were really having a hell of a time burning Jews, killing them in the gas chambers and burning them in ovens so that they wouldn't leave a sign, and they could do what's actually called a genocide, not what's going on elsewhere that you see, or that's being accused of now in The Hague, for example. And now, rather than being present in her life, she's looping. Now, when I first learned the Access Consciousness bars, which is a phenomenal modality I've spoken about practically every day, it's a gentle touch to points on your head, that when you touch them gently, when you touch them lightly, these different points, just a light touch on these points activates them and allows the electromagnetic charge of thoughts, of feelings, of emotions, a shit ton of them, to dissipate. When I would run my mother's bars, when I first learned the bars, I also learned about the trifold sequencing systems. When you put the two together and you ask for the trifold sequencing systems for wherever we're going into this loop, rather than being in our present day reality, we're looping back to the past and looping back to the past, and you run that together with the bars, it often takes you out of reactivity. It pulls you out of the post-traumatic stress that we often go to in those kinds of situations, and you begin to have more of this space to be you. And I can tell you that when I first learned how to run the bars, and I ran my mother's bars practically each day, because I wanted to contribute to her, and I also wanted to practice. Here I had my crash test dummy for bars. I had my mom giving me her head. She had her best summer. She enjoyed herself so much. It was just such a brilliant experience for her. Now, I live in a different country than she is, and even when I am in the same country, I'm often far away in a different place. So she doesn't get as much hands-on time with me running her bars. Whenever she would come visit me here, or I go visit her there, part of our, except the last few months where it's been really a challenge, um, part of our thing was actually running one's another. Well, I would run her bars. She actually took a bars class. She just preferred to receive and not to gift. I think she ran my bars perhaps once in all the years, but otherwise, she just really enjoyed receiving until very recently, where she's been living more in the 1940s in a concentration camp daily than she is in present day reality. Um, so having, well, having the gift of all of these tools and having the gift of being willing to be present, not with the agenda of I'm going to save this person, not from the agenda of I've got to make this person happy, I've got to make it all good or all right. We can't really do that very well. They have their own choices. But we do have the ability to contribute when someone is willing to choose. I find that it is when someone is stuck in something. You'll see that in my case with the car accident, for example, it took me a long time. I had a car accident a couple of years ago, and it's still taking me because it was with a motorcyclist. And there was no damage. The person didn't get hurt, but there was damage to the motorcycle, obviously. And in Guatemala, traffic in Guatemala is fucking nuts. Interesting point of view. I have this point of view. And there are motorcycles that come at you from all directions constantly. And there's no such thing as rules of the road. Yes, there's officially rules of the road, but it's more like everybody does things the way they like to do things. That's a stop sign. Oh, we call that a suggestion, and they just do their own thing, which is very different than, say, driving in Houston or driving in, California or whatever, where there's more. We do things calmly. We do things in a very organized kind of way. Now, there it's different. But I was stuck in this looping, like my mom is with the concentration camps. I was stuck in this looping of this trauma would just repeat. Whenever you find yourself as well, not just from a physical trauma, but you keep going back to the same story. Maybe I should have separated this into different kind of stuff, but so many thoughts all at the same time, and my brain is kind of ADD-ish there. But the thing with trifold sequencing systems, when you're always repeating the same story, you're always going back to the same thing again and again and again and again and again, you're not being present in your life. You're making the story or whatever it is that's so significant, so real, and so true more important than your being here right now and being present. And I've seen that. I've seen that in different situations. I see that when I am on social media. I see that when I speak to my dad, and he'll turn the phone and I'll see my mom, and I see that too. It's been really fascinating. Maybe I will hop into here since I mostly spoke about here. Hang on a quick second. 10,000 tabs here. The trifold sequencing systems. This is from from the reference materials, but just a bit, are a shock trauma thing. Happens a lot during wars. What a gift it can be for someone if you could run their bars, and add the trifold sequencing systems while running them, because it is so wonderful. The trifold sequencing systems are a shock trauma thing. This is especially good for somebody who's had shock therapy, or who's been in a war, or who've had people who've had an accident, had a loved one who died. Post-traumatic stress disorder is a trifold sequencing system. The way we notice it is because these people keep looping back to the same story continuously. Have you ever noticed people who keep repeating the same shit over and over and over again? People who talk obsessively about the same subject over and over and over again have this. Same thing with me driving, and every time a motorcycle just pulls up by me, I just go, ah! Same kind of thing. Did you ever know somebody who was in an accident or lost a loved one and they talk about it all the time? They talk about it as though it happened yesterday, even though it has been years. People who have a divorce and 10 years later, they're still talking about their divorce. Why aren't they having a life? Because they can't. That's what this thing is, the trifold sequencing systems. They keep looping back and going over it again and again and again. And the person lives as if the event happened yesterday, even though it happened a long time ago. They can't go beyond it. We all have these locked into our bodies so that a certain event may trigger them. And this is where people get stuck in their story, and they talk about their story all the time. What are you going to do if you don't have your story? What are you going to talk to people about? If it's lengthy and if it's boring, it's a story. If you repeat it all the time, it's a story. If you think it's important or significant, it is a story. Wow, so all the stories that we have been holding on to rather than destroying, uncreating, and letting go of, literally destroying. Look at the word, play with the letters a bit, and you get to de-story. So anywhere you've been holding on to a story rather than de-storing yourself, would you destroy and uncreate all of that times a godzillion, please? Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, povads, and beyonds. So I thought I'd be speaking about allowance. But since this has been kind of longish, then I probably will not be speaking as much about allowance, other than that it is about being an interesting, or maybe I will. You know what? Fuck it. Why not? There is a book that Gary Douglas just released called The Gift of Allowance. I've only made it through 4 chapters in that book. No, not 4 chapters, sorry. I think 6 chapters. And I will be exploring it more. Because it is, like I said, when I first got on, it is the one place where I've been stuck, as I've not been as interesting point of view. I've been horrified, actually, at a lot of the hatred that I've seen spewed online. And we live in a polarized reality. We know that. That's how people align and agree and resist and react to everything. That's how they maintain what they call reality. So there is this element of black or white, or good or bad, or right or wrong. So I see that, and I know that that's the way it works here. And I ask for my non-reality, for my spaciousness, for possibilities beyond to show up. Or maybe I should do this tomorrow. But I will say, reality doesn't create your point of view. Okay? Reality is people aligning and agreeing, maintaining something solid and real. And I've spoken about this before. When you no longer buy into this is right and this is wrong and this is good and this is bad, is where you can begin to let something go. And that's the gift of allowance. If everything is an interesting point of view, and I'll click on the little tingy again over here. There we go. Click on that again. Allowance is everything is just an interesting point of view. When When you begin to embrace that, and it may be that you do it like me, when you get up in the morning, you see something on the news, on social media, in a conversation with someone where they don't even realize just how hateful they may be being. They may think that, they're trying to be a contribution, but they don't get that they've been sold a bill of goods that are not necessarily allowance. And so uh, their attempt to um, in their attempt to speak, in their attempt to ask for greater possibilities in the world, they do not see how they are actually supporting polarization rather than allowance for things. So allowance, interesting point of view. I have this point of view, and this is something I repeat with myself a lot. Anytime I look at the news, I look at myself, I look at my body, I look at, a diagnosis that I may have gotten, or seeing what my parents may be choosing, my kids may be choosing, or all sorts of things around me. If I have a point of view about something, I have a choice to go into resistance and reaction, or allowance and agreement, or sorry, not allowance, alignment and agreement. Or I have a choice to be an allowance and say, interesting point of view. I have this point of view about whatever this is. Interesting point of view. They have this point of view about whatever this is. An interesting point of view. I have this point of view about their point of view with whatever this is. And the thing is that we keep thinking we're going to say it once and it's going to be all good. It'll be so nice and easy. But no. Case in point, I've been repeating that quite a lot. Interesting point of view. I have this point of view. Interesting point of view. I have this point of view. Interesting point of view. I have this point of view. Interesting point of view. I have this point of view. Somebody talks to you about finances, about the recession, about, oh, this class is so expensive, or, oh, this thing is going, whatever point of view anybody directs at you. My son's really into, oh, this is healthy and this isn't. This kind of food is important for you to eat. You should have this much protein and this much carbs and this much blah, blah, blah. But there's no allowance there, you see. There's more rigidity. Truly, so much more rigidity, and this is the way it's got to be. Who the fuck said so? Who the fuck predetermined that this is the way it has to be? And what if it's different for different people based on where they're sitting and what their perspective is and what their point of view is? To them, what they're doing or what they're choosing or what they're having works for them. We live in separate realities that way. We can't stick everybody in the same boat. We're not in the same boat, except we are on the same planet, eh? And unless we'd like to kill the planet, I'd suggest we begin, creating something greater, perhaps walking the path of more consciousness, where we include everything and we don't exclude anything. So we don't go to as much fight, but actually ask what allowance, what space, what contribution, what change could we be that will create something different here. So tomorrow, unless, something really happens, I'll go through allowance from Dr. Dain's book, Being You, Changing the World, a little bit. But I will say also that Gary Douglas did release a new book called, somebody just said, allowance seems like whatever. And you're welcome for all the downloads and awarenesses of what allowance is. What else is possible now? Allowance is not whatever. Whatever would be acceptance in a way. Allowance is not that. Allowance is, I see this. I see what's going on. I'm not going to go into reactionary stuff. I'm not going to beat the drums of making this bigger than me. But I'm going to see it and I'm going to say, you know what? This doesn't work for me. I don't have to say that you're a horrible person. I do see you're coming at me with a knife. I'll get to you first. Okay? Because this doesn't work for me. Nope, you may not stomp on me anymore. This doesn't work for me. Yeah. Hi, exactly. Hi is not so much allowance as it is presence. Um, and since I'm not sure who Facebook user is on the comments, so I don't know to what depth I could go into that conversation. But hi, the energy of hi, and just being there and seeing what is without a point of view about it, without trying to salvage or save anybody, without telling someone that they're fucked up, without telling someone that you know more. You know what? I am smart enough to know that I'm dumber than dirt. Dumber than dirt, because dirt knows what it's doing. It just kind of blows. And I hold on to points of view. Every time I hold on to those points of view, I'm not being the infiniteness that I really could be. I'm holding on to a story that I could choose to de-story and uncreate, and then have a different possibility in the world. And that's a choice that I have in every moment. But when I can see a person beyond their story, when I can be with someone, regardless of the pain that they may be feeling or the angst that they may have caused others, and actually see the spark of humanity there. Yeah, there is it's a different way of being, and where you can reach and be with people, with animals, in nature, when you don't have the point of view of this is good and this is bad, and I have to do something about this, rather than, you know what, if somebody's trying to stomp on you, allowance, by the way, is not just interesting point of view. I have this point of view. It is, I'm not going to be a doormat. So, yeah. Tell a rock in the stream your story and see what it says. Yep. Yeah. Anyway, 31 minutes and 54 seconds or 56 or whatever StreamYard's telling me here is plenty for musing and contribution. It's just meant to be for a few minutes every day, not to be such a talkathon. But I'll go more into allowance tomorrow. And if you would like me to muse about something specific, or something's coming up that's that you get would be a contribution for more people, then I would be happy to hear about it. Just send me a message or put in a comment, and I will be happy to look into that. But I will say tomorrow will be allowance. And yeah, I think I'd like to do a book club on the gift of allowance book for myself and for others. And if I do that, then I may as well also do the How to Become Money workbook, because it is all about being, and so much more than money. And it is exactly where the beginnings of the concept of allowance come to be. So how does it get any better than that? What else is possible for us and for the world? And thank you so very much. Every time you stop, rather than judge, you take a step back and you wonder and you look from a different perspective and try to notice something beyond the point of view that you might have. It's a gift for all of us. So, because it's a pattern interrupt, and we create a different world when more of us are willing to be a space of possibilities. So thank you very much for being here. I love seeing the comments. And so thank you. And I'll see you tomorrow.